Good morning, everybody. Today we are going to discuss hematinics. Hematinics are the agents that help in the formation of blood, used primarily in the treatment of anemia, and hematinics include iron, folic acid, and vitamin B12. So, what is anemia? These are the agents, as we discussed, they are used to treat anemia. So, we say a patient is anemic when his or her hemoglobin is decreased in the blood, RBCs, as per age, sex, and geographical location. So, how can we say that HB is decreased? There is a normal range of HB in males as well as in females. In males, it should be between 14 to 16 grams. This is the normal value per deciliter, and 13 to 15 grams per deciliter in females. If the patient gets anemia, if the anemia is acute, then patient will present with fatigue. If it is chronic, then it becomes asymptomatic. Now, the classification of anemia based on the indices of red cells are hypochromic microcytic anemia, macrocytic anemia, normochromic normocytic anemia, and there is a mixed picture. So this diagram shows that erythropoiesis, that RBCs, they are formed in the bone marrow. So what happens when there is deficiency of iron? What happens to the RBCs? In iron deficiency anemia, the RBCs, they are smaller in size. See, these are the normal RBCs. This is the normal hemopoiesis in the bone marrow. If there is iron deficiency, the size of the RBCs decreases and they have less of hemoglobin in them. In case of vitamin B12 and folate deficiency, the size of the erythrocytes is bigger. They become larger in size with increased amount of hemoglobin in them. So what are the different causes of anemia? Anemia is caused mainly by the decreased formation or increased destruction of RBCs. There is decreased formation if there is nutritional deficiencies of iron, vitamin B12, folic acid, and protein. So if these things are deficient in the diet, the patient develops anemia, and we categorize it under nutritional anemia. Another anemia is because of the decreased synthesis of RBCs, as in cases of aplastic anemia or in leukemias, thalassemias. These are the blood cancer conditions where there is decreased synthesis of RBCs leading to anemia. Chronic disorders of liver disease, kidney disease, and advanced malignancies, all these can cause decreased formation producing anemia. If there is increased destruction, that can also cause anemia. Increased destruction can occur post hemorrhage, like if there is acute or chronic blood loss, then patient becomes anemic. If there is excessive hemolysis, that is intracellular defects, like there is defect in RBC as is seen is hemoglobinopathies, in sickle cell anemias, thalassemias. So in all these conditions, there is increased destruction of RBCs. If there are extracellular defects, like if there is RH incompatibility, that also causes hemolysis. If there is autoimmune hemolytic anemia, in certain snake venoms also there is increased destruction. So what is the basic ingredient of hemoglobin? It is iron. So iron, it binds with protoporphyrin, which is present in the RBCs to form heme. This heme binds with globin to form hemoglobin. Now this hemoglobin, it provides oxygen delivery. So iron deficiency leads to what kind of anemia? It causes microcytic hypochromic anemia, the picture of which I have already shown it to you. So total body iron. So iron is an important component of hemoglobin. If there is deficiency of iron, patient develops microcytic hypochromic anemia. Total body iron is 4.5 grams in adult males and 2.5 grams in adult females. This iron, it is stored as ferritin. And what is ferritin? Ferritin has a ferric hydroxide with protein envelope of apoferritin. Now, aggregated ferritin is hemosiderin, which is present as iron stores. And these iron stored, now the stored iron is available for hemoglobin synthesis. How this iron is distributed in the body? Like in the blood, we have 66% of the iron. In the stores, that is in the liver, spleen, bone marrow, it is 25%. In the muscles, available as myoglobin, it is 3%. For the transport of this iron, this is transferrin is required, and it is 0.2% of the total iron content in the body. 5.8% of the iron is there in the enzymes in the body. So for hemopoiesis, the hemoglobin, which is iron, which is present in the blood as hemoglobin, it is recycled. In the stores, it is available for the synthesis of hemoglobin, and for the transport, this is bound with the transferrin, it is also available for synthesis of hemoglobin. But the iron, which is present in the muscles as myoglobin, present in the enzymes, is not involved in hematopoiesis. Now this hemoglobin, it is nothing, it is 4 parts globin and 1 part heme, and this consists of a tetrapyrrole porphyrin ring containing ferrous iron, and each heme group can carry 1 oxygen molecule. So this is bound reversibly to iron and to a histidine residue in the globin, and this is how this hemoglobin carries oxygen, or this is the basis of oxygen transport. Now, how much is the daily requirement of iron? For males, the requirement is 0.5 to 1 milligram. For females, it is more. It is 1 to 2 milligrams, because in each cycle during menstruation, there is going to be loss of 30 milligrams. That is why the requirement of iron in females is more than that in males. Now, the pregnant women, they need higher amount of iron. It is 3 to 5 milligrams. Why is it so? In pregnancy, there is mainly hemodilution. The plasma volume expands, especially during 32nd to 34th week of pregnancy. The plasma volume expands and there is hemodilution, and that hemodilution, it presents like the presenting feature, it appears as an iron deficiency anemia. So the requirement of the iron, it increases during pregnancy because you need extra iron for the fetus, you need extra iron for the placenta, you have to make up for the losses during delivery. So, and you have to make up for the daily losses during pregnancy in the urine and so on. So for that, you have the requirement of iron. It increases in the females during pregnancy. Normally in females, it is 1 to 2 milligrams per day. But during pregnancy, it increases to 3 to 5 milligrams per day. In infants and children, that's the growing age. So for that, you need higher quantity. In infants, it is 0.6 milligram per kg. It's more than that in children, because in children, it is 0.025 milligram per kg. Higher in infants because infants are mainly dependent upon the milk, and the milk is a poor source of iron. Now, what are the different sources of iron? It is available in variety of foods like dry beans, dry fruit, wheat, yeast, spinach, banana and apple. Milk is a poor source, and root vegetables are also poor source of iron. Then this meat, liver, egg yolk, chicken and fish are other good animal sources of iron. Now, what are the factors which affect the absorption of iron? You take iron, if it is not properly absorbed, you will develop anemia, iron deficiency anemia. So, the absorption is mainly facilitated by the gastric acid. In the stomach, there is an acidic pH which helps in the better absorption of the iron, because it causes reduction of the iron. Now the reducing substances which converts this ferric to ferrous form, like ascorbic acid, sulfhydryl containing amino acids, they all help facilitate absorption of iron. Then the meat also facilitates iron absorption. Absorption is decreased if the patient is taking antacids along with iron. If the patient takes phytates or phosphates, as are present in egg yolk, maize and wheat, they decrease the absorption of iron. Even the tetracycline also decreases iron absorption because it chelates iron. Now, absorption of the iron mainly takes place throughout the GIT, but the main part where the maximum absorption takes place, it is in the duodenum and in proximal jejunum. What happens? You take iron. Iron is taken orally. It goes into the lumen, crosses the luminal membrane by active transport of ferrous ion, and absorption of the iron after it's taken up, it is complexed with heme. Now this divalent metallic transporters, they help in the transport. Now the absorbed iron is transported to the blood by ferroportion and oxidized to ferric ion. Now excess of iron, it can be stored in the intestinal epithelial cells as ferritin. Now iron is transported in the plasma bound to transferrin. Now this transferrin iron complex, then it enters into the endocytes via receptor mediated endocytosis into the erythrocyte cells. Then this ferric form is converted to ferrous form, and then this ferrous form is transported by divalent metallic transporter, and this leads to hemoglobin synthesis, or it helps in the storage of this as ferritin. There is no special mechanism for the excretion of the iron. It is excreted mainly by the mucosal cell exfoliation. So it is excreted in stools. Traces are excreted in the bile, urine and sweat, and there is loss of iron during childbirth and menstruation in case of females. Now, what are the conditions where you give iron therapy? We give iron therapy in condition where requirement is increased. As I told you, in infancy and childhood. Childhood, the growing age; in infancy, deficiency because dependent mainly on milk as a major source. So then in pregnancy and lactation, already explained, you need higher quantities. In conditions where there is chronic blood loss, if there is malabsorption because of some small bowel diseases like post-gastrectomy or celiac disease, you need iron. Then early treatment of pernicious anemia, you have to give vitamin B12 along with iron. Now, oral iron therapy is as effective as parenteral if absorption from the GIT is normal. This means if the patient is not having that malabsorption syndrome, is not having celiac disease, is having a normal functioning gastrointestinal tract, in those cases, oral iron is as effective as parenteral. Now, ferrous salts have high iron content and have a better absorption. In iron deficiency, we give 50 to 100 milligrams of elemental iron, which is absorbed and utilized every day. Now, it is given as ferrous sulfate tablets, which contain 30% of the elemental iron, and the dose is 200 to 600 milligrams with meals. Anemia recovers within 1 to 3 months, and therapy has to be continued. Once the anemia is recovered, your hemoglobin rises, but still you have to continue the treatment for 3 to 6 months to replenish the iron stores. Now, what are the conditions where oral iron therapy fails? if your diagnosis is not correct because the cause of the iron deficiency anemia is something else, and you have to correct the primary cause first. And there is a continuous blood loss. You keep on giving iron, you'll be forming hemoglobin, but there is a continuous loss of blood due to bleeding. There is some gastritis, there is some ooze from the GIT or something like that. Even if you give iron, it's not going to produce any increase in hemoglobin. If there is malabsorption, as I've already told you, in those cases also the oral iron therapy fails. If there is bone marrow suppression due to chronic inflammation. Now comes a point, like in case of elderly, what happens? Most of the elderly, they have chronic inflammations. They have chronic diseases like UTI, liver conditions, kidney conditions. In those cases, iron therapy is of no value. If they come to you with anemia and they have some chronic inflammatory disorders, if they are suffering, and that's a major cause of anemia during elderly. For that cases, iron therapy is not helpful. You have to give erythropoietin in those cases. The drug of choice is erythropoietin in cases of anemia in elderly. Anemia in children and infants and in pregnancy, iron is a drug of choice with vitamin B12 and all. Now, indications of parenteral therapy. What are the conditions where you need parenteral iron? Patient is unable to tolerate. Number one, if the patient is not able to tolerate oral iron. Secondly, you are giving oral iron, but iron is not getting absorbed because of inflammatory bowel disease or because of malabsorption. Or if there is severe deficiency, in that case you should not give oral irons. You have to give parenteral therapy in patients with severe deficiency with chronic bleeding. You have to give along with erythropoietin, especially in elderly cases, the patient where they have chronic disorders, chronic diseases. In that case, erythropoietin is given for anemia. Now, the adverse drug reactions with iron with oral preparation, you develop nausea, constipation, diarrhea, abdominal cramps, black colored stools. So, to avoid these, iron is given along with food, and you can try slow release preparations. Now, what are the adverse effects with parenteral therapy? There can be local pain, brownish discoloration, headache, joint pains, hypersensitivity reaction. Anaphylactic reactions can occur when it is given intravenously. Now, sometimes the patient may present with acute iron poisoning. So, why it occurs? This happens normally in children and infants when they take it accidentally. When they take 10 to 20 tablets of iron, which is or an equivalent amount of liquid if taken by the children or the infant, the acute iron poisoning can occur. So, the manifestation with the overdose of iron is vomiting, abdominal pain, hematemesis, diarrhea, lethargy, cyanosis, dehydration, acidosis, convulsions. Finally, shock can occur and patient dies because of cardiovascular collapse. What is the treatment? If the patient comes to you, you immediately give a stomach wash. You induce vomiting. So that is vomiting helps in removing the unabsorbed iron. But then you give egg yolk and the milk. What happens when the egg yolk and the milk is given? They form a complex with iron and prevent the further absorption. But if it has already absorbed, then the drug of choice is desferrioxamine. It is given intramuscularly 0.5 to 1 gram and repeated 4 to 12 hourly. Next comes erythropoietin. I told you in cases of anemia in elderly patients and in patients who have chronic kidney disease. In that cases, we give erythropoietin. So, what is erythropoietin? Erythropoietin, as you all know from your knowledge of physiology, that it is a hormone which is produced by peritubular cells in proximal tubules of the kidney. It stimulates proliferation of colony-forming cells of erythroid series and induces hemoglobin formation and erythroblast maturation. This means this is basically, it stimulates all the erythroid series of cells and causes maturation of RBCs and formation of hemoglobin. So we are using erythropoietin. We are using recombinant human erythropoietin given intravenously or subcutaneously. It is used, as I told you, in the treatment of anemia of chronic renal failure, anemia of chronic diseases like AIDS, if the patient is on cancer chemotherapy. It's also given for autologous transfusion during surgery. So what happens? We give erythropoietin. We increase the blood production in the patient preoperatively. Then we take out that extra blood, then store it, and then give it when it is required. This is what is known as autologous transfusion during surgery. Adverse effects with the use of erythropoietin. What is erythropoietin doing? It is increasing the production of erythroid series, as a result of which more and more RBCs they are formed. So what will happen? There will be sudden increase in hematocrit. Hematocrit can increase, can cause blood viscosity, increase in the blood viscosity, and increase in peripheral vascular resistance. So when all these things occur, what can happen? It will lead to increased clot formation in AV shunts, mostly in patients on dialysis. It can cause hypertensive episodes, can cause serious thromboembolic events. Now, what are the other agents which are used as hematinics? They are cyanocobalamin or vitamin B12, which is synthesized only by microorganisms. Plants and animals acquire from microorganisms. These are synthesized by colonic microflora, but that is not available for absorption. So the commercial source is Streptomyces griseus. What are the different sources of vitamin B12? The natural sources of vitamin B12 are egg, meat, poultry, shellfish, milk and milk products. B12 is also added to fortified grains such as cereals, pulses, etc. Now the daily dose is 1 to 3 microgram in adults. In pregnancy, the requirement is increased and it is 3 to 5 micrograms in pregnancy and lactation. And it is absorbed from the GIT with the help of intrinsic factor secreted in the stomach, in blood, transported with transcobalamin. It is stored in the liver and is excreted in the bile. What are the factors which cause deficiency of this? The factors which cause deficiency of vitamin B12 is chronic gastritis, gastric carcinoma, deficiency of intrinsic factor, malabsorption, or when there is increased demand, as in case of pregnancy and lactation. If deficiency occurs, it causes megaloblastic anemia. The picture I have already shown you. The size of the RBCs increases. Then it can cause to glossitis, peripheral neuritis, paresthesias, poor memory, mood changes, and hallucination. Route of administration, it is given orally as 10 to 30 micrograms per day, parenterally by intramuscular or subcutaneous route, not given intravenously because of risk of anaphylactoid reactions. Parenteral preparations are used if there is deficiency of intrinsic factor which is required for absorption in the GIT of vitamin B12, or if there is defective absorptive mechanism, like patient is having malabsorption and all. Now the indications, it's very clear. If there is deficiency of vitamin B12, you give this. If patient develops tobacco amblyopia, in that case, how it is helpful? It traps the cyanide which is derived from tobacco to form cyanocobalamin, which is excreted. Higher doses are required in neuropathies, psychiatric disorders, cutaneous sarcoidosis, and to allay fatigue. Now another hematinic agent is folic acid, the source of which is liver, egg, meat, green leafy vegetable. Again, it is synthesized by the gut flora, but that is not available for absorption. So you have to take it from outside. The adult requirement is less than 0.1 milligram per day, but during pregnancy and lactation, the requirement increases to 0.8 milligrams per day. It is absorbed from the intestine. You take folic acid, it is absorbed by passive diffusion. But part of it needs a specific carrier-mediated transport. Once it is absorbed, it is stored in the liver. It also undergoes enterohepatic circulation. Deficiency occurs due to if you take less of folic acid, if there is malabsorption, if there is a biliary fistula, demand if increased as in pregnancy lactation, and it can be drug induced if there is prolonged therapy with anticonvulsants or with oral contraceptives. The patient can develop folic acid deficiency. Functions is it helps in the conversion of serine to glycine. It is required for the synthesis of purines, and there is generation and utilization of formate pool, and required for histidine metabolism. Deficiency can lead to megaloblastic anemia, glossitis, enteritis, diarrhea, steatorrhea, weight loss, sterility, and general debility. So the dose for this orally, we give 2 to 5 milligrams per day in deficiency states, and prophylactic doses 0.5 milligram per day. Injectable preparations are used only if there is malformation. This is all about Haematinics. About anemias, we have microcytic hypochromic, we have normocytic normochromic, we have megaloblastic because of vitamin B12 deficiency. Special conditions need higher quantity of Haematinics so as to maintain HB levels, especially in pregnancy, lactation, elderly, infants, and children. Thank you. Thanks a lot.